Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rudy McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. The 50th Annual March for Life, the world's largest human rights demonstration, will be held on Friday, January the 20th in Washington, D.C. This year's theme is Next Steps, marching into a Post-Roe America, which highlights the need for pro-life advocates to continue marching in defence of the unborn. The march also seeks to advocate for a minimum federal standard to protect innocent life against pro-abortion legislation. The rally begins at the National Mall. A national prayer vigil for life will be held at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception on January the 19th through January the 20th. The opening Mass will begin at 5 p.m. on the 19th in the Great Upper Church and will be offered by Bishop Michael Burbidge of Arlington, who is the chairman of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Pro-Life Activities. The closing Mass at 8 o'clock the following morning will be offered by Bishop Joseph Coffey, the auxiliary of the Archdiocese for Military Services. As Pope Francis gets ready to travel to the Democratic Republic of the Congo from the 31st of January to February the 3rd, violent attacks are frequently being carried out in the eastern part of the nation. In the latest incident, a bomb blast on Sunday in a Pentecostal church in Kasindi killed at least 14 people. In a telegram, Pope Francis conveyed his sorrow over the incident. The telegram was delivered to Reverend Andre Bokuonda Bolikabe, President of the Church of Christ in Congo, and was signed by Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack, while the Congolese army has blamed the Allied Democratic Forces, which claims to be an offshoot of the Islamic State. With more than 120 armed organizations and militias operating in the eastern part of the country, numerous lives have been lost over the decades-long violence. According to the United Nations, at least 6 million people have become internally displaced, many of whom are experiencing severe food insecurity. The world's oldest person, a nun named Sister André, has passed away in France at the age of 118. A member of the Daughters of Charity, she passed away peacefully on Tuesday. David Tavella, the spokesman of the Sainte Catherine Labouré nursing home in Toulon, where she lived, confirmed the news. He said, "There is great sadness, but she desired to join her beloved brother. For her, it's liberation." Toulon Mayor Hubert Falco expressed sadness over the death of Sister André on his Twitter page. She became the world's oldest person on the 19th of April last year, following the death of Japanese woman Kane Tanaka, who died at the age of 119. Born as Lucille Rondon on February the 11th in 1904 into a Protestant family, Sister André converted to Catholicism and joined the Daughters of Charity in 1944. Before her 117th birthday in 2021, she grabbed headlines when it was disclosed that she had recovered from COVID-19. May she rest in peace. The Catholic Bishops of Scotland have expressed concern that a proposal to outlaw so-called conversion therapy for gay or transgender people will have totalitarian repercussions and outlaw mainstream religions. The bishops claim that lawmakers are working on a bill that would, quote, prohibit pastoral care, prayer, parental guidance, and advice relating to sexual orientation, expression of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, except what state officials consider to be affirmative care. The bishops expressed concern that the proposed law's ambiguous definition of conversion therapy would have a chilling effect and potentially make advice or opinion provided in good faith illegal. The bishops said that people who identify as homosexual require compassion and particular care and assistance in the obstacles that come with all that life gives them. This week, a group of bishops from 11 nations in Europe and North America visited Jordan as part of the Holy Land Coordination's yearly pilgrimage of solidarity. The visit began on January the 14th and it will conclude on the 19th. The theme of this year's pilgrimage is the role and importance of the Christian community in Jordan. On Sunday, the bishops celebrated Mass with local communities at several parishes in the capital Amman and several nearby cities. The Holy Land Coordination was established in the late 1990s at the invitation of the Holy See. Its action is focused on prayer, pilgrimage, and persuasion. The pilgrimages were put on hold in 2020 and in 2021 because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but they were restarted in May of last year. Rights outfit Human Rights Focus Pakistan has denounced the death of a young Christian girl who was abducted on her way home from hospital. The group has urged authorities to deliver justice to the victim and her father. The victim, named Gulnaz, was abducted on December the 25th as she and her father were returning from hospital. She had gone to seek medical help for stomachache. The victim's family had already alerted the police on the 1st of January that her body had been discovered in a canal on December the 27th. Group President Naveed Walter said the abductions of Christian and Hindu girls have not been stopped or slowed down in Pakistan. The year started with a Sri Lankan national being lynched and his body set on fire by a mob in Sialkot. The Express Tribune also reported that a man was tortured and killed by a crowd in Punjab's Kanawal area a month after he was accused of destroying pages of the Quran. In opposition to California Governor Gavin Newsom's efforts to promote his state as an abortion sanctuary, a coalition of pro-life campaign groups is funding billboards that encourage the virtue of chastity. The Coalition for an Abortion-Free Future is placing billboards to promote chastity in the same places where Newsom's election campaign placed pro-abortion billboards. This was announced by a statement issued by the Life Legal Defence Foundation on Wednesday. The caption urges planning over abortion. The billboard features a picture of a young woman reading a pregnancy test result as a young man sits next to her, covering his eyes at the result. While indicating that around 85% of abortions are done on unmarried women, the billboard also urges onlookers to learn more at abortionlessfuture.com. According to data from the US Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, gathered in 2020, unmarried women account for 86.3% of abortions. The Apostolic Nuncio to Nigeria, Archbishop Antonio Guido Filippazzi, has stated in an interview with Vatican News that impending elections, terrorism, racial tensions and organised crime are only a few of the issues that make the nation particularly insecure. This comes after a Catholic priest, Father Isaac Achi, was burned alive in his residence by armed bandits in the Palkoro district of Kafin Koro. Assistant parish priest, Father Collins O'May, was shot and injured while trying to escape. He remains in hospital but is responding to treatment. The nuncio said violence is blind. When violence breaks out, sometimes it does not look anyone in the face and strikes in all sectors of society. He also acknowledged it strikes in all areas and leaves victims of all faiths. Following an announcement by the US Food and Drug Administration that women would be able to purchase chemical abortion pills over the counter, a Florida health body has advised pharmacists not to dispense the drug. In a statement last week, the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration said that the state law still forbids women from purchasing abortion drug mifepristone at pharmacies. The organisation highlights two pieces of Florida legislation that show that abortion pills are not allowed in pharmacies. The statement follows the FDA's announcement that it modified the risk evaluation and mitigation strategies for mifepristone to enable the pill to be dispensed by certain pharmacies or via the certification of a certified prescriber. There are reports that Myanmar troops set a century-old Catholic church on fire on Sunday in Chantar, a largely Christian village in SAGAING region. On Saturday, junta soldiers raided the area and started setting buildings on fire. They spent the night in the 129-year-old Assumption Church before setting it ablaze early on Sunday. Chantar has 800 houses and the majority of residents are Christians. Residents claim that junta soldiers stayed on church property during other operations, plundering and vandalising the place of worship. Reports say that the troops deliberately torched the church as there was no active combat there with rebels. Villagers were able to escape before the recent raid. Despite weeks of anti-government rallies and protests, Peruvian President Dina Boluarte has steadfastly refused to resign. Dozens have died in recent clashes in the country. Although Ms. Boluarte expressed sympathy for the lives lost during conflicts with security forces, she vowed to remain. 50 people were killed as a result of the riots, 41 in clashes between demonstrators and security forces, and 9 as a result of roadblocks set up by the demonstrators. The Peruvian government declared a state of emergency for 30 days from January the 15th in the province of Callao and several other regions. The violence was triggered by the arrest of the former president Pedro Castillo in December. The impeached Castillo supporters have been demanding new elections and are seeking Boluarte's removal. Castillo, a former elementary school teacher who was forced out of office, has been remanded in custody for 18 months for trying to dissolve Congress. The final 2 episodes of Season 3 of the Chosen TV series will make their theatrical debuts on February the 2nd and the 3rd at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. before being made available on its mobile app. Director Dallas Jenkins said that episodes 7 and 8 would be screened in a few chosen theatres around the country. The Fathom Events website crashed shortly after the director announced ticket sales on Sunday. This will be the 3rd theatrical event for the series, following its Christmas-themed episode in 2021 and the highly successful kick-off of Season 3. Chief Executive Officer of Fathom Events, Ray Nutt, pointed to how hungry audiences are for faith-based content. Fans who choose to watch on the app can view the episodes for free on the platform on February the 5th for Episode 7 and February the 7th for Episode 8. The Chosen is the largest crowd-funded media project in history and is a global phenomenon. On January the 17th, the Vatican celebrated the feast of St. Anthony the Abbot with a special blessing of animals on a small farm that had been temporarily set up in front of St. Peter's Square. This allowed pilgrims and tourists to admire horses, oxen, donkeys, cows, sheep, goats, ducks and rabbits. The Association of Italian Breeders constructed the farm in the Piazza Pio XII in front of Vatican Square. Through environmentally friendly methods, the programme aimed to highlight the significance of farmers' efforts in the pursuit of food security and the general good. On the occasion of the feast, Cardinal Mauro Gambetti, the Vicar General of Pope Francis for Vatican City, celebrated Mass at the altar of the chair of St. Peter's Basilica. Afterwards, he went to bless the animals and the farmers who had travelled for the occasion. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more. And do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.